Flosstube. It's Julie, the Susical Stitcher. It has been a while, like a really, really long while. I was with you back in September, I believe, or late, maybe the very beginning of October. Life was happening in the fall, obviously for me. It just zoomed by, and next thing I knew, it was February, and I realized I had not done a floss tube in forever, and so here I am. Again, thanks so much to those of you who have patiently waited for my third video, and I so appreciate your messages and those of you that reached out to make sure that all was well in my neck of the woods, and it was and is. But I just appreciate you so very much. I've enjoyed watching lots and lots of Flosstube over these last few months. Just have not stopped long enough to film. So that means there's going to be some catch up in this installment. I'm going to do a few flashbacks for these last couple of holidays that have gone by, and then start off with what I'm currently working on and what I am planning to work on as we move forward. So, without further ado, I'm going to, and I've got a few notes, since I do have so much to share with you. I will refer to my notes a few times, but you'll see I'm in a different setting today. This is my craft room slash bonus room. We try not to let it become the junk room, because it sometimes does. People like to stick things in here that they don't want anymore, or this is somehow the stopping place on the way to Goodwill. I don't know how that happens, but since this is my space, I do claim it, and I do run people out of here frequently. The cats have been in and out in the last few minutes since I have been setting up to film, so if you hear some strange noises, that may be what it is. The dogs can't come upstairs, don't come upstairs, and so we won't get any interruptions from them. So here we go. The last thing that I talked to you all about that I was working on way back in September was the Sing a Sampler series from Silver Creek Samplers. So just as a reminder, here they are. So you'll remember there are 4 in this series. Okay. And I used Garrett, the Coffee Stitcher's conversion. Although I just looked at his, he didn't make it available to people, just out of respect for the designer. But so that meant that for Fa, a long, long way to run, this is now Maria, and so she is in her habit running. And I felt like that just suited the piece really well, and I just appreciate Garrett so much for that great idea. So I am going to insert a picture of the finished and framed piece here. Now you'll see that this is hanging, I don't know if you can tell from this picture, but it's hanging above our piano. I am so proud. This is one of the pieces that I am most proud of. I absolutely lucked up at one of my thrift store runs and found not only the perfect size frame, but also a frame that already had museum non-glare glass. So I am thrilled. Just love the way it turned out. I love that it is hanging above the piano. I just think that's the most perfect location for it as well. So, Sing a Sampler from Silver Creek Samplers. So the next group of holidays that came up were the fall holidays, so October and autumn and Halloween. So I want to do a couple of flashbacks first, and this means, when I say flashback, I'm just talking about things that were stitched previous to this year, but things that go along with that season. And so if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen a lot of these pictures already, but we'll go through quickly just those those stitched pieces and craft related objects that I display during the holiday season, and then I'll stop and talk just a moment about things that I finished this year. So, first of all, first flashback is Baba Yaga. I absolutely loved stitching her. So I'm going to insert the picture of the finish here, and let me talk just a little bit about it. So you will notice that this is a shadow box frame. I found this at Michael's, and I loved the depth of the frame because I felt like it was absolutely perfect for what I wanted to do, and that is have her flying above. I just kind of envisioned initially just like a haunted house below her, but ended up just doing a silhouette that's just out of black matte paper. And the little tombstone is from, if you go to Hobby Lobby and Michael's and those types of craft places, they have the fairy garden little decorative pieces. And because I was shopping in the month of October, I found this perfect tombstone that I thought would just look ideal in her shadow box. And I just love the way that it turned out. So this is Baba Yaga. Her pocketbook is fabric. So that is not stitched. That is a piece of wool that has been felted. And that's her pocketbook flying behind her, which I also just love. So that is something that I had already stitched. So that's a flashback. Another flashback are two freebies. I'm going to show pictures of those two freebies here. And the first one is Brouhaha. This was, I apologize, I cannot remember who the designer was, but I finished it as suggested in the pattern. I did do a DMC variegated floss for part of it. The next one is Bok Bok, which is also a freebie. I followed the pattern exactly for that one. And so I love the way those turned out. And so those are flashbacks because I did them before this year. Now, for this Halloween, this October season, I finished Bobbing for Pumpkins by Brenda Gervais. So I'm going to insert a picture of the way that finished product looks here. And you can see that this has been displayed on a decorative piece. This one came from Michael's as well. I honestly cannot remember if this is the exact one that Priscilla and Chelsea used when they finished this design, but if it's not, it's the same idea. It might have a different saying on it. I actually have two of those brooms. One hangs in one area and one hangs in another, and they both say something different. So I can't remember which one is which, but Bobbing for Pumpkins, I used all of the called for threads for this piece, and that is just a coffee dyed piece of fabric that I dyed myself. This is one of my favorite seasons. I don't have a lot of Halloween stitching yet. Got a few pieces, one that I just recently finished, we'll talk about in a second, and a couple that I'm working on this year, but I just love Halloween decor. Okay, so after Halloween, then we transitioned into the rest of the autumn season. So Thanksgiving and other kind of fallish type holidays. And so the flashback that I have for that one is Country Cottage Needleworks. This is Seasonal Celebrations, the autumn version. And so I will insert a picture of the finished product here. And so as you can see, this is in a frame. I change these out every month. So the frame is the same. I just changed the stitching out. There's no glass in front of it. I used all of the called for colors and threads in this piece, including the called for Jabco buttons. And this is autumn. So next are two fall autumn finishes that happened this year. So first from the Cricut collection, this is autumn. And I actually worked on this one while we were at the beach this summer, and it's one of my favorite, actually my very favorite seasonal pieces that they've done is the October. My birthday is in October, so I'm very tempted just to do that month. I just don't want to do all 12 months. And so I decided to put that on hold and just do the 4 seasons first, and then I may go back up and pick up October. But I absolutely love the way this turned out. Again, I did this on the called for count, all of the called for colors and threads, and I just used I actually took a piece of fabric down to the beach with us that was the right size and count, but it was just kind of an off-white, and I used instant coffee to dye it the color that I wanted. So the finished product is here. And so you'll see that I am just displaying this one on the mantle. I just bought a piece of unfinished a wooden plaque that was unfinished and stained it and attached this using Velcro to the back of the foam core. And I used a homespun that I just ruffled and didn't do a really great job. I will admit I'm really very new at doing anything with homespun and any kind of ruffling. And so all I did, it is not attached to the stitching, it's actually attached to the wood. I just used hot glue and attached that ruffle around and then placed the stitching on top of it. So that is autumn. So the next piece that I worked on was Bent Creek. Let me just tell you something. This pattern is a little bit deceiving. Now, I do realize that the stitch count is clearly written on the instructions and the description if you're purchasing this pattern, but just to look at it, I thought, oh, it's going to be relatively small, something I'll put. I actually kind of envisioned putting it on a shelf in my kitchen, but I absolutely loved the look of this design. So I knew I wanted to stitch it. And so when I got it, I ordered it off of 123 Stitch, and when it came, I started looking and realizing, wow, this says that the model is stitched on 18 count linen. And so, to be honest, I was thinking, I don't even know what 18 count linen is. You know, I use 28, 32. I use some Aida, not a lot, but 28 and 32 are my go-tos in either linen or an even weave. So 18 count linen, that was my first point of confusion. Then I looked further and realized, wow, this is stitched entirely in number 5 pearl cotton. I thought that should be interesting. 1 strand. Oh, that might be kind of neat to do. Holy moly! First of all, it ended up being a huge piece. Second of all, even on 18 count, where it's a really open weave to the linen, it was very, I don't know, who is it, Philip, that says it was fiddly? It was very fiddly. It was thick. The finished product, I think, is beautiful, but I don't know that I will ever stitch with pearl cotton again. Not sure, don't hold me to that. But let me show you the finish. And I actually have that one here. And I want to make sure that this wooden piece, I'll show you the back. It's just a kind of like a, I don't know what it was supposed to be, but something, I bought it at Hobby Lobby. And this is the finish that was on it, so I didn't do anything different to that. I've covered a piece of foam board with a fabric, just a cotton quilting fabric that I felt like coordinated with it. And then put this onto foam core and mounted it with I think I mounted this to this with Velcro. I'm pretty sure, because I wanted to be able to have an option if I ever wanted to, you know, put it on something different or put it in a frame. So I want to get up. Let me see if you can kind of tell. I don't know if you can really tell how thick, but I do want to make sure that you can kind of see. Again, I think it's beautiful. I love the finish. But dummy me should have just taken the stitch count and figured it up and figured how big this piece of fabric was going to be. But just to give you an idea, this is my hand and this is the stitched piece. So it is massive if you do it on the called for fabric with the pearl cotton. Obviously, you could have done it with on 32 count, on 28 count. And use just DMC floss in these colors. Now, actually, this called for some DMC pearl cotton, but it called for Weeks Dye Works pearl cotton, the Gentle Art pearl cotton, and one Classic Color Works pearl cotton. So to me, the colors are gorgeous. And I'm not disappointed in the finished product, just not sure that I will want to do a pearl cotton project again. So count your blessings, Bent Creek. I decided I got a little crafty bug around the fall holidays and went on to a website called Patterns Online. I think it's called Patterns Online. I'll put it here if it's something different. But anyway, and I was looking for some sort of primitive, I kind of wanted a primitive doll. So, you know, all of us that watch Mortuary Stitches, you know, we know those types of dolls that she makes, and they're just beautiful. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be something interesting to have? Well, I had recently been to a craft fair where I saw some that I loved, but then I saw the price and thought, again, the more I thought about that type of decor, the more I convinced myself that I think I can make something like that myself and then have exactly the colors and the size that I want. So I looked on Patterns online and ordered a pattern for, I don't know, maybe $5 or less for the pattern, and got the materials and ended up with these. So the first one that you see is a pumpkin. And so my son thinks she is very creepy. I think she's a little creepy, which is what I like about her. I think it's mainly the eyes that make her maybe a little bit creepy. This is a painted muslin. And so I've got a few of these pictures that are closer up so that you can see the detail. It is stuffed, I mean, till it feels like the seams are about to burst. The little dress was the most difficult thing for me to make. I love the fabric. I dyed the fabric with coffee to make it look weathered. I love her little boots. And I love her little sign. I just think she's perfect. And I actually left her out. You saw her in that, well, actually you didn't. But you see her on the mantle. This is, I believe, a fall decoration, not just Halloween, even though she's creepy. She's a pumpkin. So I left her out all through November. And then I saw this guy, and this is a turkey who I loved. I loved his top hat, you know, the top hat in the Bent Creek design that I had just finished. I felt like it complemented that. This is a piece of muslin. It is not painted. This one is actually stained with something called brie, B-R-I, brie wax. I'd never heard that before. I ordered it online. It's very inexpensive. I could have probably picked it up at one of our local hardware stores or home improvement stores, but they did not have the color that was suggested in the pattern, and I really liked this kind of caramely color. This one involved, well, both of them involved the sewing machine and some hand stitching, but I just love the way that this turned out. So I'll tell you a little humorous story about this guy. This decoration will be forever known and referred to as PP Turkey. And if you will notice the shape of the turkey body, and I want you to just visualize for a moment that prior to his facial features being added, prior to his tail being added, prior to his top hat being added, he was just a body. Think about that for a moment. Hence the name PP Turkey. Let's move on. So the next holiday, of course, was Christmas. And favorite time of the year for me. I love all the holidays, but Christmas especially fun at our house. I had Thanksgiving at my house, which means that my mom and my brother and my husband's parents come to our house. And so I really didn't want to decorate for Christmas until after Thanksgiving because they were here on Thanksgiving. But buddy, the minute they left the house, I started getting everything out. Now, I do have a lot of Christmas decorations, maybe an obscene amount of Christmas decorations. Some of you all, I've seen your videos, I've seen your house tours around Christmas, so no shame. But I have Christmas village houses, and so I do several village displays in the house in a couple of different rooms. And so I'm going to show you some pictures of that here in just a second. But first, let me show you two Christmas stitches that I love. And so one of these is a flashback. So Dina, half stitch, cross stitch, is working on this one now. And this is a Jim Shore 12 Days of Christmas. This was a Dimensions kit. I love Jim Shore. I love anything Jim Shore. And I actually did this on the Ada that came in the kit, and I'm not sorry. You can see, I'm going to get close. You can see in his cloak are all of the motifs for the 12 Days of Christmas. And it just involved a lot of counting. And I did this a couple of years ago. And I was really happy that I chose to use the Ada because it really helped me. And I think that I was able to, I had a much easier time with placements because I don't grid. So I was really so pleased at the way that this turned out. Now, let me tell you what this is mounted on. So this is actually wood. And in one of my thrifting adventures, I found this picture. And so underneath this is this horrible, horrible picture. I have no idea if someone would have hung this maybe in their bathroom or in a salon. Think palm trees in gaudy colors, and you got it. It was just horrible. But I loved these finials. I loved the fact that it was wood. I just knew I would be able to use it for something. And so when I finished this piece, I ordered this fabric from a seller on Etsy. And this is a Jim Shore quilting fabric. And so even though the design is different than what is in the stitching, it's Jim Shore, so I knew it was going to work. I knew it was going to complement. And so I cut the fabric and decoupaged it to this piece of wood. Then I mounted the stitching onto the foam core, and just used this rope trim to go around the edges. I'm so proud of the way that this turned out, and it hangs near the front door in my home, and I love it. I'm really proud of it. So this next Santa that I did, I finished back in, I think, March of 2018, somewhere around there anyway. I started him right after Christmas last year, and this was another Jim Shore. This was Jim Shore. This was a Mill Hill kit. Bought it off of the Stony Creek website. I was really, really proud of this one. So the called for fabric was 28 count Time hand-dyed Jobelan from Wichelt. So Time, T-H-Y-M-E. I purchased the bead pack to go with this as well. So let me show you the framed finished product. And here he is. So here he is. A little bit of glare, sorry. So you'll notice a significant difference, although the fabric, the count, the size, the color, the beads are all exactly what's called for in the pattern. I have left out something. Yes, that border. So I'm going to be honest with you. This took a long time. Let me bring it up close, I think. So you can look at those beads. I can't even tell you. Look at the beads. Can you see in his beard? I mean, this is beads, 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 and more beads. And his beard alone probably had 6 different colors in it. This took a long time. And when I got him done, I really wanted to go ahead and bead him, and so I did. And I started trying to work on that border. No, it just wasn't going to happen. It was confetti heavy. It was just, I didn't love the border. So I did the one row. Is that one? No, it's actually, I think that's two stitches wide, 2 stitches with a bead in between. So the beads go all the way around the corner, the edge. I know that's hard to see. And I decided I was going to call that done, and I did. And originally I had thought that I might want to put some kind of edging on this for a moment. I looked for maybe a Jim Shore ribbon or trim, and thought, should I try to do something? Should I do something, paint on a mat? Nope, I love him just the way he is. Framed myself. Thank you, Teresa, for your tutorials on how to frame. Now, I put my own spacer in, and I think it works beautifully. It's a piece of foam. There was just enough depth to allow me to do this. And the frame is a thrift store frame, and I love the frame too. Let's see if you can tell. It's got a really pretty design. So I'm thrilled with him. I love him. Now, so my last flashback for Christmas is, this is Big Bertha. So this was a really, really big project. And those people who do Mill Hill kits know they are very intricate. And so this is framed, so I apologize for the glare on this. And I'll be honest with you, I think I may have shown you this in the last video, and I'm sorry if I did, but I'm going to show you again. So this is my Mill Hill Christmas Village. I have 8. I had the mat cut for this. I'm just trying to get the glare off of it. And this hangs above one of the villages, one of the lighted Christmas villages. and this was a booger bear to frame, to get all of those, that's perforated paper. I did not do it on fabric. Now, if I had this to do over again, I would have done all 8 of them on one big piece of fabric. But I did 2, and then decided that I was going to continue and do a set. And I had already done the first 2 on the perforated paper, and so I just kept working, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine. But what I ended up having to do with this is on the foam core, I overlaid the foam core with a piece of cotton fabric, and I actually stitched just one corner stitch into that perforated paper for each of those to keep it straight. But it was just a bear. It was a bear to measure. It was a bear to figure out the spacing for the mat. I love it. I absolutely love it now that it's finished. I love to see it hanging, but it was a bear. It was absolutely a bear. So now, all the Christmas is up in our house. So this is just a little quick Christmas tour. Here are a few pictures and a few little short clips. I think I may have a few little video clips to show you of the villages. Okay, so there's Christmas at our house, and I must say that I love it when it's out, but I love to get it all put up because the house seems so big once all of the things are put back up at the end of the season. And so it is now winter season here, and I have a few winter stitching projects up. Some of them are flashbacks, so let me show you those now. First is the Seasonal Celebrations Winter. Love the colors in this. I would have never used these types of colors in my kitchen unless they were in something like this. And even when I was getting ready, when I was kitting this up originally, I thought, ooh, am I even going to like this? But here's the finish here. And I think it turned out beautifully. You can see, using the exact same frame I had before. And I didn't say this before, but I'll say it now. My husband actually found this frame, and it was an 8x10 frame at Walmart. It was already white, and I loved the look of the frame, but it was too big. And so my husband cut it down for me so that it would fit these pieces. So that is Winter Seasonal Celebrations. That's a flashback. And then I have 2 more little flashbacks. This one, I just love this. This is Little House Needleworks Warm Winter Woolens. And here's that finish. And so you'll see that I actually have this on the gingham fabric, which I love. I couldn't be happier with the way that turned out on that gingham. All of the colors are the called for colors. And I love the candle screen finish from the pattern, the model stitch, so much that I ordered this candle screen. To be honest with you, I'd never even heard of a candle screen, didn't know what that was. And this is what it is. Actually, you could put a candle behind that, and it would be a very thin screen, and the light would shine through. There is no candle behind this one, and I love the way this turned out. So that is Warm Winter Woolens. And then Herbert, Heart and Hand. I needed a small snowman because I purchased this frame that I needed someone to fit into. So let me show you the finish here. So this sled frame was purchased at Michael's at an after-season sale, and I just loved it. And I knew that something would be perfect in this. Wasn't sure what. Had it for a year or so before I ever decided. And when I saw this little pattern, this little design by Heart and Hand, I knew he was going to be perfect. And so this is Herbert, and Herbert looks precious in the sled frame. So those are my flashbacks. And so this year I finished the Cricket Collection Winter, and I finished this one sometime early fall. It may have still been the summer when I finished this. I think it was still summer when I finished this one. And so the finish is here. And so I have him out. I have this one out now on the mantle, and you'll be able to tell that this is the same size wooden plaque, but this is a painted plaque. And I just thought that that pale gray was really going to give it the look that I wanted. And there is no trim around this stitching. So where I have mounted it to the foam core, it's just pinned around the foam core, mounted onto this plaque, wooden plaque with Velcro. I did not put any kind of trim around the stitching, and I would like to do that. And what I think I want to do is to add maybe a mini pom-pom trim around the edge. To be perfectly honest, I just have not gotten around to doing it. So right now, this is the way it looks, and I could not be happier with the way this turned out. I was very concerned that my blue fabric was too pale. I dyed this fabric myself with just a little bit of Rit dye, and I was so afraid that the snowflakes and things were not going to show up, that the blue was just too pale. And now that it's all said and done, I think it's just fine. I think the blue could have been a little bit darker, but I think that it turned out just fine, and that all of the designs, the motifs for each letter just show up beautifully. So I am tickled to death with Winter from the Cricket Collection. So that brings us to now, finally. So I am happily stitching on some new projects. I just finished last week one of my big projects, and I started this very soon after I filmed my last Flosstube video. I may have talked about it, that I was going to stitch it. I can't even remember if I did or not, but I started this right before Halloween and worked on it, for a while, and then had to stop and start over. So let me explain by showing you the finished product. So this is Halloween Quilt. I'm not going to try to butcher the name of the designer, so I will insert the designer's name here. I love this. I just think it turned out beautifully. So let me tell you why I had to start over. I started in the middle, as I always do, okay? And I started here and worked down, okay? So I had maybe, I think, boots all the way to here, and was so tickled. I mean, I did this motif, I did this complete motif, I did half of this motif. Okay, now all of the borders were not complete. And it was time for me. I was working on an 11, I think an 11 by 17 Q-snap. And it was time for me to move the fabric, okay, because I needed to move it up. So raise your hand if you know what happened when I moved the fabric. You're right. My fabric was turned the wrong way. Are you serious? I was so mad at myself. And I know what you're thinking. I know you're thinking, but Julie, you had a small, you could have just made a small out of that, right? You could have done something. No, because I know what it's supposed to look like. I threw that sucker away. I was so mad. But I immediately started over. I mean, immediately, as in that night, I started over. So this, my friends, was a labor of love. So I started on this before Halloween. Okay. Then I had a break. I stopped to do the Bent Creek Count Your Blessings. Then I started back on this. Obviously, I kind of had some stops and starts getting ready for Christmas and those kind of things, and I just have finished it. I'm so proud of it. Let me get up close so you can see the colors I love. Have no idea where I'm going to put it. I'm thinking maybe a wall hanging. I'll probably end up framing it. Not sure, but I love the way it turned out, but was not intending to do some of these motifs twice. But I really am proud of it. So when I finished that, I had a couple of choices of things that I could start on, things that were ready, kind of in my queue of things to start on. And I decided on, if I do seasonal pieces, I want all four. And so I knew that even though it is February, or actually I started this in January, right at the end of January, I knew that as soon as the seasons changed, that I was going to be very anxious to have that Cricut collection for the next season to go on my mantle. And so I started spring from the Cricut collection. And I just moved the Q-snap last night, so I took it off of the Q-snap and took a picture of where it was last night, and I'll insert that here. And so you can see I started in the middle and worked right. And so I finished ING and moved the Q-snap. And so today and last night I started on the R. So this fabric, and I don't know if you can, I guess you can tell from this picture that this is on kind of a pale yellow fabric. So I don't have an LNS here in Chattanooga, and so unless I want to wait, which I can wait, well, I'm not very patient, so waiting is not good. But I knew I could have ordered a piece of fabric if I really wanted to, but I thought, hey, it's pale yellow. I mean, how hard can it be? And so I really love the way the fabric turned out, with the exception of, and it's very difficult, I think, to tell. Ooh, that is so bright. I don't know if I can do it, tell from. Yeah, I don't know if even the light is really going to help you to be able to see. Woo! Okay. But there are a few kind of yellow, they're not really dots, they're kind of splotches. Now, I see them. I was asking my daughter, she doesn't see them. But I do, but you know what? I decided that I'm okay with that. I'm not starting this over. I think that it will look like it's supposed to be there, and I plan to tell anyone that asks that it is supposed to be there. But I really love this. I've never done anything on kind of a yellow fabric before, and I'm tickled with it. So I'm excited about finishing this project. So I have a couple of choices for the next few projects that I'm going to work on. And as I mentioned in one of my earlier videos, I am a monogamous stitcher. I know that's so boring. Maybe it's not so boring when I don't film as frequently and come on and have a lot of stuff to share. But if I was one of these people that shared every week or every other week, you'd be really just seeing one project. So I don't know how exciting that is, but I will show you a few things that I'm planning to work on. And in 2019, I may decide to have a little small rotation, maybe work on 2 things and rotate them, maybe a bigger project and something smaller. Jury's still out on that. But let me show you what is in my queue to be started next. And so I am really excited to start, let me take this out, really excited to start another Jim Shore Harvest Trio. This is on a linen band, and that band is 8 inches wide, just to kind of give you an idea. And heavily beaded. In fact, I ordered the bead pack, and there are 2 buttons and lots and lots and lots of beads, which I love. I think it'll be beautiful. I'm really excited about doing this. I did have to order the linen band. I ordered it from Stony Creek, and there was a sale for Super Bowl weekend, and so I was able to get, I don't know, maybe 15% off or something, so I went ahead and ordered it. So I'm really excited about starting Harvest Trio. And I'd like to figure out, this has like the hardware at the top and the bottom. So I'm not sure if that hangs on like a pole or a stand, or if it's against the wall. But I love the way that is at the top and in the bottom. So I'm excited about Harvest Trio. I also have another spring pattern, and I purchased this pattern probably 2 years ago. Lila's Studio. Spring is Hare. H-A-R-E. Yes, I have an accent, but that says hair and not here. I love that with the bunnies and the house. No matter how long the winter, spring is sure to follow. So I love that. Love the colors. So that's definitely coming up soon. Now, dun dun dun. So I have had this pattern for a long time. The reason I think that I have not started it is because I have been a little bit intimidated by the size. But you know what? I decided that I was just going to suck it up and start it this year. And so that is Praiseworthy Stitches Bump in Night Farm. I love the motifs in this one. Sorry for the glare. Sorry, not sorry. But I ordered the fabric. And that is Picture This Plus. This is the called for fabric. Picture This Plus Haunted. That is a big piece, right? Big piece. But I love this fabric. I love, 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 love this fabric. So that one is one of the next ones coming up. Not sure if it'll be the very next one, but it's definitely coming up. I doubt that I am going to use all fancy floss for this one, because it does call for weeks and sampler threads. Some Mill Hill beads, just a few. So I don't know that I'm going to use, I may use a few, the highly variegated ones I may use for there's the pumpkins. The barn is really not that variegated, so I don't think I'm going to spend the money to, I'm cheap, sorry. So I'm really excited about this one. Then the next one that is in my queue, another one that I'm really excited about. So the next one is Glendon Place Murky Manor. I love this one. I love those colors. Now, I am not going to stitch those 3 ghosts, I don't think. I just don't like the way they look. I think it makes it look a little cheesy. Now, when I get to them, I may change my mind. But right now, I'm thinking no ghosts. The rest of it I love. I have the bead pack and the buttons and the fabric. And so this, here the little skulls. It's got 3, just two beads, 3 Krynic, black, purple, and I don't think that this is a glow in the dark. I think that that is just a, you know, like a metallic, like a white. And then beads, black and lime green, which I love. And I chose, so the called for fabric for this one is Dawn, okay? Picture this plus Dawn, and what I ended up with, picture this plus Murky. So it looks really similar. I'm going to try this. Yeah, that's true to color. So it looks similar to the other one. This one has got more gray to it. I love it. I think it's going to be just fine for this. And I think the reason, I did not order Murky on purpose. I meant to order the Dawn, but this is called Murky Manor. And then I ordered Murky. So maybe it was meant to be, because I think, I know it's difficult to see, and I apologize. And so that's not going to work. I think it's going to work. I think it's going to work just fine. So picture this plus Murky. So I've got one more thing I want to show you. So I guess, you know, I'm not really going to show haul, because, you know, like I said, I don't have an LNS, so I rarely have haul. But I do want to show you, I was in Nashville this past week for an educator conference that was outstanding, by the way. One of our keynote speakers was Temple Grandin, and it was unbelievable. So if you don't know who Temple is, look her up. It was phenomenal to see her in person. So this was a special educator conference. I went because I am the director of ESOL, English for Speakers of Other Languages, and also the director of response to instruction and intervention in our district. And so both of those things were addressed in this conference, and it was just outstanding. Another keynote speaker for those fellow educators out there was Gary Brooks. So he has quite the YouTube following. He's a principal that really promotes culture and climate for buildings, and he did an outstanding job as well. But at any rate, on my way back to Chattanooga from Nashville, I stopped at a small LNS in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and was so excited about this pattern that I found. Now, I don't know who forgot to tell me about this pattern, but shame on you, because I don't know how I didn't know this existed, but I love it. And I'm sure I'm very late to the party on this. I'm sure everyone has seen this or done this, and that's okay because I'm going to be doing it now. And this is a pattern called Americana from the Work Basket. And so it's terribly packaged. Okay, so this is a pamphlet pattern like we're used to seeing, but part of the pattern's on the front and part of the pattern's on the back, which is unfortunate. I wish they had a one, kind of a panoramic picture on the front, because I think probably people pass this by because of the way it is displayed. And so I hope you can see this. I absolutely love this. So look very carefully at that picture and you will see a big, beautiful rooster. You will see an eagle sitting on top of a tree. You will see a rabbit standing on top of flowers. A squirrel that looks a little evil, standing on top of some kind of shrub. A big, beautiful peacock. And an ostrich. Holy moly. I can't wait to do this. I absolutely cannot wait to do this. And the verse across the bottom says, "Cloth is my acre on which I sew so beautifully and diligently." I love this. I absolutely love this. Now, the called for fabric, it actually says the original Americana was stitched on a birds of a feather linen. Because of the availability issues, and I have looked and could not find it on Etsy or eBay, we suggest using Weeks Dye Works 35 count beige with one strand of Weeks Dye Work floss. Don't think that I'm going to use beige. Not sure what fabric I'm going to use, but the roof of the house in this is a 3x3 Scotch square. So I think that's going to be really fun too, to have that specialty stitch on this one. And the original fabric was called Birds of a Feather 32 count Nightingale. So I think it looks like it was probably beautiful fabric, but I'm not sure what fabric I'm going to use, but I can't wait to stitch that one. Really can't wait to stitch that one. So there you go. You're all caught up. I'm going to take just a minute before I sign off to give you something to think about. It's been a while. I know that I challenged you in my first video to eat that frog, and in the second video to love them anyway. And so I want to give you something else to think about as we all face this challenging world together. One day, a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a boy picking something up and gently throwing it into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "What are you doing?" The boy replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. The surf is up and the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, they'll die." "Son," the man said, "don't you realize that there are miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You can't make a difference." After listening politely, the boy bent down, picked up another starfish, and threw it back into the surf. Then, smiling at the man, he said, "It made a difference to that one." So, my friends, I want to encourage you to be mindful that everything we do for each other matters. And that even though it may seem like we're not gaining any ground, if it matters to just one person, then that's enough. Make sure that you don't miss an opportunity over these next few weeks to matter to someone else. Bye.